Good afternoon, everyone. We have a quorum here. It is 6 p.m. And so I call this meeting of Judiciary and Public Safety Committee meeting to order. And with that, hello to everyone sitting out there. And everyone in Zoom. Oh, not much for Zoom. All righty, so with that, we're going to get right into it. For those who are following along on the agenda, we're going to close item 1 and open item 2, which is consideration of minutes of August 7th, 2023.
Accept the minutes of the August 7th, 2023 meeting.
The second, any discussion? No, okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. We are closing item number 2 on the agenda, opening item 3. Comments from chair. I don't have any comments this evening. So we're going to just close item 3 and move to item 4. So public comments within jurisdiction of this committee. Anyone in the gallery here would like to speak? No? Okay. Anyone on Zoom would like to speak? No. Okay, with that, we're closing item number 4 on the agenda. Opening item number 5, which is communications shared by committee members. Anyone have anything they'd like to share? Supervisor Deputy.
Yes, so this upcoming weekend is the Wisconsin Counties Association's annual conference. I'm taking a look at the agenda or the schedule for that conference. One in particular that I look to be attending, and that's Innovative Solutions to Wisconsin's Mental Health Crisis. It looks like there's a few people from both Racine County, Waukesha County, Jefferson County that will be attending. I plan to attend that one. So that's just one in particular that I'm a little bit interested in. That's kind of relevant to our committee of jurisdiction. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, sounds good. I'm just going to delay a little bit more. Okay, we're going to then close item number 5 and open up item number 6. That would be update from District Attorney's Office, Eric Spar.
All right.
Hello.
Hello. It's a short one today. We haven't had too much going on. That's the thing you're not supposed to say, I guess. So be careful with that. We did have a sentencing on the trial I talked about last time. That was the stabbing, the relationship case that went to trial. That went to sentencing. That was the one that had the numerous stab wounds, the quick verdict. Sentence was life without parole. I won't say too much more about it because the judge that did that sentencing is here, and I don't know if we're past the appellate period yet, but that case concluded. The only trial that we've had since I was last here was a negligent handling of burning materials case involving a guy who was intoxicated and letting off fireworks, some intentionally, some not. There was a large garbage can that started on fire. It was actually a hung jury. It was, we found out later, 11 for guilty, 1 for not guilty. I think it's probably not going to get retried, but that was the only trial we've had since last time I was here. So not as exciting of an update as we've sometimes had. We have been pretty active with the prosecutor ride-alongs going to law enforcement. I think I've talked about that a little bit before, but we're almost through with all of those. We've hit, I think, all the 2 police agencies so far this round, and that'll be something that will be changing each year as far as where people are going, at least every couple of years. A couple other things that we've been involved with that are not case related. There was the overdose awareness day that a number of agencies in the county participated in. We have people from our office that got involved with the human services folks on the first floor of the One King building for that. There was the Solutions Recovery Fest 5K and other events that were going on this past weekend. We had a number of people there. There was a volleyball tournament for Narcotics Anonymous benefiting the program that sends people promoting recovery going into the jails. That was this past weekend. So we had participation in that from our office. And also there is a recovery softball league that started for the fall. The second week just happened. That was actually started by somebody who's in the SOAR program. It's a program I've talked about a few times before for the methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl possession type cases. So a guy who's participating in that started this league. The drug court has a team, so we've been participating in that. But just a lot of things going on, trying to make sure that people who are involved in recovery and are active doing positive things can see that people support that. So I guess beyond all that, it's kind of the court scheduling has been, or calendars have been fairly eventful, I guess. So we haven't had as much going on as we sometimes do. I'm sure that'll change now. I know there has been one case in the news that there's somebody in the jail right now that's gotten some media attention, and maybe we'll talk about that one soon. But that case is not charged yet. So I think that's all I have for this one.
Okay. Any questions, Supervisor?
Yes, so in regards to drug court and solutions recovery, what is there if somebody participates in drug court, is it required that they go through solutions, or can they go to other resources?
They can go other places. I think most of them end up going there just because there are a number of people from Solutions that are at drug court regularly. And there is one of the groups that meets at Solutions typically. So I guess they do get drawn to that location, even though that's a drug court activity. But they can go where they want to. And actually, a lot of them do regular meetings at other recovery places as well. There are some that are held at churches. There are some at other recovery clubs that are held in Oshkosh. So they're not required to engage. So we've been trying a little bit. A lot of our folks do community service there. It's become, I think, just the path of least resistance as far as getting involved with that sort of stuff. They do have to do community service, but they have flexibility as far as where they do it. So I've been trying to provide them some encouragement to check out some other places too.
Okay, all right, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other? Supervisor?
Could you give us an update on staffing?
Yeah.
There's been a concern about having enough assistant PAs.
Yeah, so that is, I think I talked a couple of months ago about the state budget funding pay increases for prosecutors and public defenders, as well as the private reimbursement rate for public defender cases. Since that happened, we've seen a definite increase in applications. We still have one vacancy, and we interviewed for that spot and did not hire anyone to this point. But we did see the impact as far as a number of applications coming in where they were really not coming in before. So at this point, we're still down that one. That's out of 12 lawyer positions total. So we don't feel like we have to hire somebody immediately for that, but it's good to see that we have some people to choose from. And hopefully I'll be updating in the near future saying that we filled it. But overall, I think we're in okay shape, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, definite increase in applications. I think that was probably due to the increase in pay, because we saw that almost instantly when the salaries posted were updated on the state's website.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Okay, we're going to close item number 6 on the agenda. Opening item 7, which is review of DAA's 2023 AirVenture After Action Review.
Thank you. So for the second straight year, EAA set a weekly attendance record up 27,000, 650,000 in 2022, 677 in this year. They set a single day parking record by a few hundred cars. There was an increase in drive-in campers as well. So if you drove by there, I have never seen that many campers ever at EAA. They had to close some of the overflow parking lots just to make them fit. And it was obviously a very successful event as far as attendance is concerned. We did have two fatal crashes that occurred. You probably know, and I talked a little bit about them already. The one that occurred in the lake with the pilot and passenger, and then the gyrocopter with a helicopter where 2 were killed and 2 were critically injured. Overall calls for service are up 35%. Some of that was heat driven with calls for service for medical. Others were thefts, etc. With that many more people, you're going to have that many more issues. But all in all, still an extremely safe home. I would allow, my grandmother to go there unescorted. Our current staffing levels, we will be asking for an additional deputy in the afternoon. And it's all covered costs, but given the increase in the calls for service, we are going to ask for 1 additional deputy. Currently, we have 3 deputies on day shift, 2 on the afternoon shift, and we'll increase that to 3. 2 deputies overnight. There are 2 supervisors that work opposite of each other. So we always have a supervisor present. We have 3 deputies that staff the Marine unit at the seaplane base. That is all covered by EAA as well, so we can immediately get out and try to dive and rescue if there's a crash in the lake. And then we have 5 reserve deputies that are used for traffic. So, any questions about that? Yes,
I have a couple. You said for traffic control. My question was about your traffic control. Does dispatch interface with ATC during EAA at all for calls for service that are aerial related? For example, those 2 crashes, the gyrocopter crash and the T6 crash.
No, not directly, but there's video of the helicopter crash, and it is immediate, the call for service. Oshkosh Fire was on scene within about 60 seconds of the call, so there was immediate response. But as far as that is concerned, no, unless we would have to directly, they're aware of everything that's going on.
Sure.
If it's on ground, so near ground.
Right. The next question I have is how many partner agents this year? I know that we work with a lot of the VFDs in the area, specifically in the town, just because of the numbers that we need on the ground.
Yep.
So do you have a total number on partner agencies this year?
From a law enforcement perspective, it's just us and Oshkosh PD.
Right.
They handle the traffic, we handle the grounds. We do have some minor traffic, which is covered by the reserve deputies. But as far as all of the volunteer fire departments, as far as I know that there are spotters that are used throughout the county. I don't have a number for that. That is something that is coordinated outside of our purview.
But I just want to thank you and your department for doing a great job at EAA, as always. And it is a very safe event. So
It is.
Thanks.
Yeah. Supervisor Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, could you explain, or could you elaborate on what is the net expense to the county for providing this service? I do understand that we get reimbursed for services provided, but I don't know, does it cover the whole expense?
The only thing we
got
do,
some pretty
Right.
expensive employees.
we do, but they're well worth it. The only thing we do not charge for is our supervisors. So is that both positions or just one? Just one. So only one position, which is Lieutenant Tim Eichmann. I don't know if you've met him, but he is our special events lieutenant. And that's just considered part of his normal duties. Now, we're not paying him any extra to work out there, even though he's working additional hours. He's not paid anything additional. So the cost to the tax levy is 0, minus fuel. We do cover that. That would really be it.
Any other questions? No. Okay, with that, we're going to close item 7 on the agenda. Open up item number 8, which is presentation review of the 2024 budget.
Well, hopefully you all received the information that we sent you. The 24 budget will, we're asking to fund 2 additional detective positions within our investigative unit, in the special victims unit, and in the Lake Winnebago area Metropolitan Enforcement Group, the LWAM or MIG unit, which is used for drug investigations, et cetera. Additionally, we will continue to expand our MAT program, that's the medically aided treatment program. I'm going to talk in depth about some things that just developed and some things that we are working with other departments within the county and outside the county, and we're actually pretty excited about, I think, what we're going to be able to accomplish. Lastly, we'll be upgrading the integrator secure electronic door system in the jail, and that's a multi-year replacement, so that is part of capital. But other than that, there aren't a lot of significant changes. The 2 positions, and then we did see some increases in our other contractual areas, such as the medical provided to the inmates. That medical contract went up, as well as the meals in the jail went up. So there were some issues, and now I'm a little scared with the $3.50 for fuel per gallon when I'm seeing $4. But thankfully there's an election coming, and typically that, you know, brings it down. So we're hoping. Just a reminder that we have since 2016 eliminated 15 positions from the organization. So we have done our part to try to slim things down by moving people's job duties to different areas when we eliminated positions. We've been successful in that area, but I'm going to have Lieutenant Mike Seawall, who heads up our special victims unit, talk about that position, and then he'll be followed by Lieutenant Chris Brayman, who is a lieutenant in the detective division. He'll talk about the Lake Winnebago area MEG unit. We'll just take a few minutes of your time, but I want to give them an opportunity to speak. Mike? Yeah. Again.
All right, seems like just under a year ago, I was up here talking about the Special Victims Unit. And I guess I'm proud to report some of the progress that we've made as a specialized unit here at the Sheriff's Office. As you'll see the top portion, just some statistics from what we've done as a task force throughout the years and what we've developed over time. I talked about Operation Kickboxer last year, the successes that we had identifying 3,000 suspects throughout the world who are involved in child exploitation. I want to talk a little about cyber tips, which are tips that come from social media outlets directly to Winnebago County Sheriff's Office that we handle. There's been a pretty striking increase over time in those cyber tips for child exploitation related matters. And then I want to get to 2023. So what we've been able to accomplish, right? So far this year, I'm happy to report we've gotten lots of referrals from the Wisconsin Department of Justice. So as I said in the past, we're kind of the go-to agency when it comes to undercover operations and IFAC investigations in general. So with that, we get a lot of referrals from other agencies to help out because we do specialize in this and we already know this experts throughout the state. So we've got 2 separate referrals, one from Mayville PD and one from Wausau PD. Very excited to tell you about a child we rescued in Detroit just a week and a half ago. She's 7 years old. We were able to locate her because we are so active in some of our undercover investigations. So we worked with the FBI in Detroit. They were able to rescue her in less than 12 hours after we identified that there was a child being victimized over there. So very happy to report that. I've had a couple of federal prosecutions going. So we had a 5-year sentence for a Menasha resident that we apprehended for possession of child pornography. Another possession of child pornography case that's ongoing. We're able to make an arrest on that out in Fremont. We've been very active in undercover investigations. When we talked about EAA and the safety and everything, we're doing a lot of safety things behind the scenes in an undercover world, trying to protect children out at the grounds by running these proactive investigations, making sure that people that are showing up there aren't trying to exploit anybody. And again, the big hot topic now is sextortion cases. We've had now 10 ongoing sextortion cases just in this county where victims live. And we kind of utilize and leverage our federal partners throughout the country, which a lot of agencies don't do, and we're able to go and contact these other agencies and follow up and hold these people accountable for what they're doing. We've hosted now, I think, 8 different fraud schools as part of our special victims unit, which we had some of you in attendance. We've gotten really good reviews on that. I feel like we've helped a lot of people learn and understand how to not become victims, and if they do become a victim, how to react to that, what kind of information gather so that we can best help them out. So with all that being said, we're busy. We're very busy. The frauds are constantly going up, like I talked about the cyber tips. And again, just the ability to have one more body to help with our undercover investigations and save more children is why I stand for you today. So, any questions?
Any questions? Supervisor Plum?
I just wanted, if you could briefly go over about the fact that the special victims unit we have here is special. And I mean, especially special in this case, because of this kind of work. So if you could highlight the fact that not many other counties in the state do this kind of work, and why we're unique in that respect.
Right, so we are one of the only counties that has individuals, investigators, detectives working just on internet crimes against children, and furthermore on undercover investigations. So a lot of departments have people that will be general detectives, and then they'll get an ICAT case. A lot of times they're way more complex. There's a lot more nuances to it. It's a very specialized set of skills. There's different search warrants you need to apply for. So it's very detail oriented. So when a detective who's not used to getting those types of cases gets one of those, they tend to shrug or roll their eyes at times because it is more complicated and time consuming. We benefit from having this unit because we have now 3 people that are trained and a supervisor that has been doing it for a decade, well versed in these. So we take a very victim centric approach to it, and we try to kind of put that compassion in every single case that we have, and we stress the details when we're doing it. So that's what kind of makes us unique compared to any other county in this state and really throughout the country.
And then one last question I have, are you guys working with the school districts as well?
Yeah, so we are right now working on a sextortion type training, kind of like our fraud school. We're going to go that route for the school districts. I think it's really important to stress this because it is something that's popping up. So I talk about it in fraud school too, but the scammers and the fraudsters are turning now to the younger generation and using those tactics on them to try to exploit them. And that's why we see that uptick in sextortion. So we want to give them the tools and the know-how to understand and say, hey, kind of add a little fear factor to it and let them know that, yes, we're on your side. Here's what to look out for. We want you to be safe.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Supervisor Isaac?
To what extent have you become involved with automation and artificial intelligence in increasing your capacity to take in information and process it?
So unfortunately, technology is very expensive. So to the point that we use it in any investigations, I would say it's next to zero. The companies that create software and do those different things, there's a price tag on all those. And at this point, since it's new technology, they price those very high. We've become accustomed to doing things the way we do, and we've had a lot of success doing it the way we've been doing it already. So we don't really need to lean on any AI technology or anything like that. But is it coming? Absolutely. Because just like I go into different places to find people because technology is changing, So are our child predators, and so are our fraudsters and all of our suspects. So it's gonna be a place that we need to explore, and as a county and as a task force that we're gonna need to address at some point, but when that happens, I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out. You know,
Is there anything in the literature or in the communications from other larger agencies that have capitalized on
Not that I'm aware of. I can tell you from the opposite end, I know there is AI that is creating child pornography now. So we're gonna be dealing with that, trying to differentiate between real and fake, and how is our state legislature gonna handle what they do about that as far as holding people accountable, because in the eyes of the layman, that looks just like regular real stuff. But I am not aware of anybody from federal agencies or other agencies that are utilizing it in a proactive way. There is ICAC and child exploitation cases have very strict standards too, what we can and cannot do. So we try to keep it as tight as possible to those standards so that we can have successful prosecutions and not deal with any motion hearings or have anything like that happen.
Okay, I have just, I'm sorry, Supervisor Jeffrey. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, thank you for this. This is really good to get this report, so we have like some hard data to go off of here. Does human trafficking fall within your purview as well?
It does, yes.
Okay, and how has that been coming along? Have you had any cases in regards to that?
So I think this extra position will help that, because we have one of our detectives deals with child protective services, so sexual assaults and sensitive crimes within the county. We have another detective that deals mostly with frauds that we get, and then we have one detective that's dedicated to ICAC and cyber tips. So my hope and my goal would be with this extra position to dedicate them to training opportunities in human trafficking, so that we can start being more proactive in that sphere of our unit.
Okay, it's good to hear, because oftentimes when it comes to human trafficking, a lot of people think that, that can't happen here, but it always happens here.
Sure, and we've had a couple of cases that have come up that we've investigated all the way through. But I am a proponent of being proactive, less reactive. I'd like to take care of the problem before it becomes a problem. So, and there's a lot of opportunities to go out there and have those types of interactions before it's an issue.
Yeah. And my other question too is that do you also do you work with the victims as well, or is it more? Are you more focused on just the prosecution side of things?
So every time, especially on the federal system, when we do anything with that, there are victim services that are involved. So if we do a warrant, and we haven't had one this year, if we have a warrant, we expect children to be there. A victim witness personnel from the federal government will come with us if we're going to charge them federally. So they will be there to give out resources to make sure that they're taken care of every time.
Okay. And have you established, a good relationship with some of the local nonprofits around here that work?
We haven't worked with a ton of them just because of our reach throughout the state and throughout the country is so deep that a lot of our cases do expand outside of Winnebago County. It's going to be a point of emphasis in 2024 because we will have more bodies to focus on this, to do more localized ops in my operation, And my hope is then at that point to bring in those other shareholders and allow them to be a part of not only our operations, but then after action stuff, so that we can truly have a victim-centered mindset every time we do something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing I'd like to see just kind of in the future, especially if we approve this position here, is that we have a lot of those local nonprofits that are specialized in that realm.
And if I could say one more thing, so the difference between what we do and a lot of places do is when we do these undercover operations, I'm the victim, right? Or a detective's the victim because we're playing that child role.
Right.
So when we make these arrests, if we find out through other search warrants and interviewing and stuff like that, then that is going to spark all of that, right? Then we find out if there's other victims, but most of our cases revolve around us being the victim. So then those resources aren't necessary for us, right? It's very rare that we, like I said, we like to catch it before it's a problem. If we catch it when it is a problem, then 100% we go that route.
Okay. All right, cool, thank you.
Yes, I just have a few questions. The first is to the comment that was just made, so the arrests for child pornography, were those ones that we initiated? Or are those ones where we got tips and we're kind of part of a team?
Sure. So the two federal cases that we have there were from tips.
Okay,
And then we had one that was also that we initiated based on software that we have in order
I see.
to identify those people.
okay,
The 7-year-old victim that was self-initiated.
Oh.
We found her. And then the referrals are going to be kind of ongoing, continuous investigations that we deal with over time.
and how much time, might be a really tough question to ask, but, or to answer, how much time does it take? So let's take the sextortation, which you're saying is a growing issue. If there was 10 cases, how much time is allocated in a case or those cases, would you think?
I would say every sextortion case, as an example, would probably take a month and a half. Minimum. Because we're dealing with a lot of different social media outlets, which are search ones, internet service providers, and then a lot of times our victim is here, but our suspect is usually somewhere else. So now we have to deal with outside agencies, whether that's state, federal, local agencies in different parts of the country. Coordinating all of that can be time consuming and difficult, depending on the agency that you're working with.
Right.
So, but the undercover operations, that's every day, all night, weekends, all night and work for an hour. So it's continuous.
And it's a rather small team, and this is a lot,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So with the new position, the request, I'm looking at the, like, I guess, job duties, if you will, what's needed, and it lists everything.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm a business owner, so I know that when you list everything, that's probably not necessarily ideal. So are there certain areas that you would find this person focusing in on
Yes.
all that list?
And I think we put everything down there because I do a lot of the teaching throughout the state for the Department of Justice. So we have a unique opportunity where I can sit down and have them for a week and teach them everything that they need to know, like, to a T, right? But like I spoke about before, I think our intent is to have this individual be more focused on the trafficking element, and then kind of on the aside, also do the internet crimes against children work as well.
Okay. And is this type of role that easy to fill? Do people want to do this work?
I don't think it's easy. I think it's time consuming, mentally exhausting. It is a lot, to put it in simple terms. And there's a lot that goes into it, right? There's a lot of training. There's a lot of nuanced things that you need to know. There's a lot of risk involved as well. I mean, ICAC warrants are probably the most dangerous warrants you can do. Just for the simple fact that people that we arrest usually don't have any type of criminal history. But if you get arrested for a child crime, your life changes dramatically. And a lot of times they have families, they have kids, and they're not willing to go down like this, right? So we've actually started implementing more safeguards into what we do, more surveillance.
And so you're confident you'd be able to fill this if this was allocated though?
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm curious, what do you do for those who are on this team to make sure that they are like mentally?
Sure. So I think we benefit from the fact that I've been doing it for a decade and I have a good understanding of what this is and what it entails and the impacts it can have on you and your families and everybody else. So I feel like I have a pretty good eye for it and have good discussions with the people that work underneath me in SBU. We also have wellness days here at the sheriff's office where they can speak with the counselor about anything that's going on. And obviously, we offer up anytime, if you need a break, you get a break. I mean, this is unique and it's special, so I think it's necessary to allow people to have those opportunities to step back from time and do other things if they need to.
And I asked for two reasons. First is I'm just curious about burnout for this kind of thing. And if this is, as this grows, I think this is probably gonna be an area that will continue to grow, unfortunately. How we manage that. So that's why I was asking that question.
And I think we could have it just be more robust. And I think when you grow the quantity of individuals, each person is unique. So everyone takes things a little bit different, mental health and physical health. And so I think it's just having that relationship between myself and that member of the SBU and working out all the way to the sheriff. Just having open lines of communication, making sure that we have an understanding of each individual person.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions? Oh, Supervisor Ivey.
Thank you. Because we have initiated these resources and allocated it to this direction compared to other counties, not only surrounding us, but regionally and statewide. Is there anything in the planning mode to be compensated or reimbursed by these other counties when we are providing this unique service?
Sure. So in 2015, I went to, it's called Alicia's Law. So it's a lobbying group. Alicia was kidnapped and raped as a child. She escaped, survived. She survived it. And now she spends her time going state to state, buying different legislatures, money set aside within the state to pay for ICAC related expenses to include overtime. So I got a hold of them in 2015. I got them in touch with our Department of Justice at the time, the head of ICAC, and they made it so in 2015. So now there is an amount of money every single year dedicated to ICAC related cases. So that would include overtime, training, resources, so on and so forth. So every bit of overtime that is done under ICAC or in the SBU is fully reimbursed by the Department of Justice in the state of Wisconsin.
Does that come appear in our budget?
Yes.
Yes.
It's reimbursed overtime.
Yeah. So, and I have a very unique relationship with the head of DOJ's ICAC. I just had a call with him today because they're kind of tightening down on overtime a little bit. And he said that we keep doing what we're doing, we're just fine. So he's very impressed with the work that we're doing. And like I said, I called him and let him know the operations are running. He's very impressed with where we're at as a task force. He's appreciative of what we've done for this state and for this community. So.
Thank you for answering my email so quickly.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, appreciate it.
The larger version.
Hey, I'm the junior.
All right, for those that don't know me, I am Chris Brayman. I'm the other detective lieutenant. I've been with the sheriff's office since '98. Been in detective division since 2010. So I just wanted to speak a little bit to what Mike was saying. When he says that there are only a few people doing what we do and what his specific group does, there's nobody in the state that's doing that. There's the FBI, Homeland Security, and even like the larger metro areas, they don't have the personnel to do that, right? Because they're busy, they're short-staffed. The smaller jurisdictions, they don't have the training or the opportunity to do that. What they're doing proactively is amazing. But as you talked about too, sextortion, all the other cyber crimes, digital crimes that are going on right now, it flows over. So it's not only his guys, but it's also the rest of the detective division. So we have a lot of cases pretty much any case that we're dealing with now deals with social media, digital, right, legal process. So we're really tapped out. And back in probably 2011, because the detective division was kind of overloaded, we had our Lake Winnebago area neg unit position come from the patrol division. Well, that ran up until about a year ago, and then the individual that was in the division or in the MEG unit at that time went to a different agency. So we've been running without a MEG position since then. And right now, with the calls for service in the patrol division, as well as just the caseload that our detectives currently have, we're not able to either pull somebody from patrol, and it would be difficult to take people away from what Mike's doing. And the normal caseload that we've done for years and years hasn't gone away, it's only increased as well. So we would be looking to add a detective position to put into that MEG unit spot. And as you can see by the numbers that are on the graphs that are provided to you, I mean, obviously, District Attorney Spar talked to it earlier. Drugs continue to be a huge problem. Back in, between like 2010 and 2018, a high year for drug overdose deaths was high teens, maybe low 20s. And now over the last 3 to 4 years, we're doubling that. We're seeing overdose deaths in the 40s this year through September, or through August actually. We have 30 overdose deaths and 21 are related to fentanyl. So obviously fentanyl and meth have been huge lately, and that's nationwide, but we're feeling the effects here in Winnebago County as well. So I also included, some of what the MEG unit is doing, their 2022 calendar year information, as well as their 2023 year-to-date information. You can see the large amount of seizures and the increase in fentanyl and meth seizures that they've done. We have, the opportunities with the MEG unit have always been, sharing of resources, sharing personnel, and just being able to give us that street intelligence that we wouldn't normally have access to, and what we've been missing for about the last year.
I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
could you tell me again what counties are in the MEG unit?
So that would be Outagamie, Fond du Lac, Calumet.
Yep, and Winnebago.
And Winnebago.
Okay, thank you.
There's one Dodge position now too, I believe.
There it is.
Yeah, they added that a couple years ago.
Okay. Is it filled right now? I know the MEG unit's been running short too because agencies are short staffed. That's about. But with that is I guess the nature of our request. Just we need the position. Drugs are, involved in a large amount of what we do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a property crime or other crimes, major crimes we've had over the last year or so. Drugs always play a part, and we have, we've been trying to deal with it with the detectives that we have, but we are obviously busy.
Any questions? Supervisor Plum?
I think that the work that you guys are doing, in addition to the way that the MEG unit shares resources, is a model and very exemplary of sharing resources and working collaboratively to get results. I mean, I read about your seizures, on the news, and some of that stuff is really scary, especially fentanyl.
Right.
And I read a statistic that one of the seizures, I think the one in Fond du Lac late last year, contained enough fentanyl to kill a large amount of people. I don't know the exact. But this stuff, the numbers just speak for themselves about how scary the overdoses are.
Right.
Just the sheer number. So I guess what I would ask is what Brian asked earlier is for just the sheer amount of stuff that you're working with, which is hazardous. Do you have opportunities for other wellness and coaching on that, dealing with these seizures? Or in terms of physical wellness as well, if there's any exposure related injuries, and also just the gravity of what you're seeing.
I think it's the large amount that we've seen lately. There's more availability in with the MEG unit, the training
that they can provide. And also, there's a drug class every year that DOJ puts on, and just the safety precautions and the training we can get from that. And obviously, we have the wellness program within the sheriff's office.
Great, well, thank you very much.
Supervisor Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bottom line on the sheriff's budget is an increase in levy of $900,000. Adding these two positions is $300,000. Are these positions included in the budget that we're asked to consider?
Yes.
Just a couple questions.
Sure.
Kind of the same one that I had asked before. So if I look at the actual position, there's a laundry list here. Can you help me understand specifically, we hire this person, what will this person be doing out of the gate?
So out of the gate, they would start up with the med unit, kind of in a training position. They'd be assigned a trainer to the different officer who's already been or has med experience. And then they stay in contact with us. So whatever they're doing, he's reporting to us on the daily, and any type of legal process, search warrants that they're gonna do, they get reviewed by us. And that's not, so I've been a supervisor back in the detective division since 2013. And it's not every agency that does it that way. But if they do a search warrant up at the MEG unit, they have a supervisor up there and DCI, and that individual can review those warrants. But we require our investigator bring that information to us so that we can review it.
You did.
Yeah.
Do you know if any other county is looking to staff additional positions in the MEG unit?
I'm not aware of that. I know that with staffing shortages are pretty rampant around the law enforcement community. I think the opportunity to have somebody there is, and if we can take advantage of that and the resources available to us from there, it'd be a great opportunity.
And I don't want to be careful because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, and then I say but. However, it's all the same. By adding this, do we feel that we would go forward to seeing some, I'm not gonna say improvement on these numbers, but help stemming this issue? Like, I'm trying to understand like the value to the county by adding this. Do we feel like, I'll just ask this, do we feel like by adding this position, we'll start seeing maybe a more manageable number?
Well, that's the hope, right? I mean, right now, we feel a little blind because we don't have that street intelligence. We're not involved with the MEG unit on the daily interactions that they have or the weekly meetings that they hold. So, just the lack of communication when it comes to that is a negative for us. And we feel like maybe we're missing out on some of those things. We try to work through it. We try to communicate, but having some, individual that's in that position that can be that relay more else. Plus, just the information. You never know when you're going to break a case. When a detective here might have information and know something that they don't know up in the MEG unit, when you start sharing that information, you don't know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
And just the sharing of the names of some of the, the suspects we're looking at is invaluable.
And if we were to approve this, are you comfortable saying that this is a position that can be filled? I mean, there are a lot of times that we add these positions and they said, vacant for a good amount of time.
Right. Well, much like Lieutenant Sewell's position, it's tough work and it's sometimes long hours and, not great hours and you're on surveillance and it's not fun, but the reward is good, right? It's a huge win when you can take a large drug bust off the street and you can keep, fentanyl pills out of some high schooler's hand, much like rescue. So I have no worries that we can fill that position.
All right, any other questions? Supervisor Isaac.
Thank you. This would be for the sheriff. Why can't I find these new positions and the significant changes from 2023?
Because it didn't meet the amount, whether it's three or 5% or $5,000 difference. It has to meet both of those, and because labor is the majority of our budget, it didn't meet that. Does that make sense?
I don't understand why it's not on significant changes.
Because it didn't meet the dollar amount.
$300,000.
It didn't, when you look at the labor budget being 18 million or whatever it is, the total, it didn't meet that because it's such a small portion of the 15 million, 16 million, whatever labor is. I don't. You understand? I mean, I could put it on there. And things change dramatically in our how this budget is presented.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of presenting it to the full
To the board?
board.
Yeah.
If I'm having difficulty comprehending it in the smaller setting, I can see how others would have a problem in a wider setting where there'd be, gee, you've given me this sheet that says different significant changes from Division 110. And that there's a 300,000, there's a $900,000 increase in the levy that we're asking for. You know, this is 300,000, a third of the increase, and it's not significant enough.
It didn't meet the criteria we were given by finance on what things changed a lot from last year's budget to this year's budget. There wasn't a lot of direction that was given to us. So we had to go out and create this. Typically, what that significant changes that you have in your hand is in a different format and it came from finance. We did our best to give you what they gave us for guidance to create that document. I will add the 2 positions to the significant changes. I understand what you're saying, but it didn't meet the direction we were given by finance.
No, I'm thinking ahead for
Yeah.
with a wider number of supervisors that don't have the commitment or the responsibility to scrutinize the details as this committee has.
Sure.
And they're depending upon us to do the grunt work so that, you know, they can say amen.
Typically, new positions are mentioned by the personnel director at the time of budget hearings. If you remember from last year and years in the past, they'll say this department has asked for these 2 positions, they are this, but they may not be on that significant change because it doesn't meet the criteria of dollar amount. Even though it's 300,000, a lot of money. I get what you're saying. We'll put it on there. And
Well, this hasn't gone to the county executive yet.
it has. We
Well,
have
he
met with
hasn't-
it.
He hasn't responded in the document, whether he's increasing or decreasing or keeping the recommendations of your accounting department for the board to consider.
You're correct,
So
but
he's
I was given
Still
direction.
has to weigh in on this.
We reviewed it with him. He hasn't given us any direction. You're correct. But Chairman Stafford asked that we present our budget in September because all the other budgets will be done in October. So ours being the largest out of what you all have to review, he asked that it be done in September. That's why you have it now without the county execs.
Well, I to understand that the county exec wants to do things top downward rather than bottom upward. In other words, he had proposed some of this priority budgeting direction. So he kind of left you as a department head in limbo because you were, if my recollection is correct, preparing to do a double budget. One is
Right.
to do with your priority direction, and the other was, with the traditional budget as we've done over the years. But he's withdrawn that priority, direction from this, round of budgets.
We went to a certain point and then we stopped. I don't know where that's at. That's up to the county exec and whoever they hired as a consultant. But we'll add it. It's a good point. I appreciate it.
Yeah, if I may, I think it's a great idea to add it as a call out. To bring visibility, if nothing else, to bring visibility. And that I assume that there might be additional conversation at the board level on these two positions as well. So this is a really good way of starting that conversation. And as we talked about it last year, so we also met in September last year for sheriffs, and we said, all right, we're gonna have this preview of it. We're gonna go through the process. If there are any issues regarding the county executive that we need to come back and talk, we surely can do that when we look at the other budgets. So this may not be the end as well.
Right.
But it gives us an opportunity to dive into this one since it's so large, and make sure that it's making sense. And I think Supervisor Eisen made a really good point on that. So that's the process.
Where is the money coming from?
That is yet to, well, not a small question. It's a question that must be answered, right?
Well, remember though, that we've given back 15 positions since 2016. So maybe some other concessions need to be made in other areas.
I get that. I just don't know if that's how things work.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Anything else for Chris? I have a question.
Supervisor Jeffrey.
Yes, so I was just looking at the 2022 calendar year and the 2023 calendar year. Just like, the trends of drugs over the years. I see that looks like, cocaine, you seized about 4,000 grams in 2022. In 2023, it went up to an additional 20,000. So it sure seems to fluctuate. And so I guess, and the thing of it is too, is like 10 years ago, nobody knew what fentanyl was.
Right.
And so it almost seems like some sort of monitor where you cut off a head and two more arise. So, what, just going forward, this is something for us to think about going forward is what kind of, from what you see in your experience, in your specialty, what do you see in the trends of drugs in the future? I mean, do you think that fentanyl is going to be something that will remain, or will there be another monster head that will arise?
Well, I think, synthetic opioids, synthetic drugs, meth are here for a while. So I was a drug recognition expert. I went to training in Phoenix, Arizona in 2004, and meth was rampant, out of control there, but it didn't come east to Mississippi until like after 2015-ish. And then once it got across, because Chicago was the heroin capital of the US, and they kept meth out. And like you said, it's all trend based, but meth, the availability of meth now and fentanyl coming in pills, and you don't have to have a complex process to get it here, right? If it's in tiny little pill forms, you can put it anywhere and transport it, right? So all the more reason that we need to have somebody that specializes in that. Because what is the next trend? I mean, they're trying to make it more available to everybody. That's how they get customers, right? And then they're trying to make it as strong as possible. What is fentanyl? It used to be Oxy everybody was worried about Oxy, but fentanyl is stronger than Oxy, right? So here we are. We're just going to keep going in that direction. And, who knows what's going to be next, but it's probably not going to be good. And it's probably going to be made for mass distribution and ease of sale. That's the trend. That's the major trend. What drug it is doesn't really matter. It's ease, right?
Right.
How easily they can get it out, how strong it is, so that they can hook their customer, keep bringing it back.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, that's just it too, is like, after a while though, it just kind of feels like you're looking at windmills because, it just seems like, once you shut down one drug, another drug comes along.
Yeah. it's a very specialized area, right? And you need to have somebody that is in it every day, seeing the different trends. We're kind of on the tail end of these fentanyl pills that are, look like candy almost. That's just hitting our area, but it's all over the place, thousands of pills at a time. If it falls in the wrong hands, it's gonna be just a terrible, terrible thing.
Take it, Supervisor Hanson.
This may be redundant. Is it safe to say for you and for Lieutenant Seawall that the need is possibly greater in Winnebago County because of the I-41 corridor?
Definitely. And, I mean, we see it with Fond du Lac, us out of Gamey, all the way up to Green Bay, from Chicago, that direction. Definitely plays a part. I just was talking about the ease of transportation, ease of distribution, the interstate, there's a lot of cars up there. You're driving a normal car with no defects, valid plates, doing the speed limit. They're, without the intelligence, there isn't stop that car.
Thank you. Supervisor Plum.
Just to kind of follow up on Supervisor Deffering's question, I'm on the State Streets Initiative, and the health department has been working on providing xylazine test strips. I just want to know on your end of the equation, have you seen seizures of xylazine pop up?
I don't know that I've seen Sears, and I don't know if I don't think it has it on their sheet. I know that I've seen it at overdoses. I've heard that there's been some, not all, but some along the way, and probably with the more availability going forward, I'll probably see more of it.
And one of the concerns that I have with that is that it's unresponsive to Narcan. And so we're putting a lot of eggs in the Narcan basket, and then you have this, which will not respond.
Right, and then, I mean, fentanyl itself is not always, it's supposed to be, but, fentanyl is a very strong drug, and how many doses can you get to that person to bring it back?
Thank you.
Supervisor Wright.
This is a question for the sheriff. We're asking for 2 additional positions. And last year's budget. In the sheriff's department. These 2 will bring us to 195 in 2024.
Yes. And also about this position. So we had, the agreement is between the 4 counties, but each of the counties will give 1 position. And then agencies within the county, such as Oshkosh, Neenah, Menasha, they will also give a position to work in the MEG unit. And then that carries on throughout the 4 counties. We just haven't put someone in there because staffing levels, et cetera, have been. So this, although this is a new position, it's a position we filled before, but in a different manner. Does that make sense?
So may I ask a follow-up then? So do we not have someone from Winnebago County on the bank unit right now?
Not from Winnebago County Sheriff's Office, correct?
Okay.
So essentially, we're not pulling our weight.
Technically, we're not. And that happens with different agencies. They may go 6 months without staffing that position based on family medical leave, based on retirements, based on all kinds of different things, large caseloads.
Thank you for that, because I assumed this was a net increase,
No, well, it's a net increase on the table of organization, but
not for the unit itself.
right, exactly. No, we're not adding a second person to it.
Okay, I'm so sorry, I assumed that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have.
Yeah, no, we should have made that clear.
And I don't want to throw cold water on the work that we already do with the MEG unit in terms of the equipment, housing, and the other stuff. I mean, we certainly do a lot currently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're still very much involved with them, but just not having someone, as Chris stated, with the pulse of what's happening. Very beneficial. Bring all that back.
You have one more question? Okay, go ahead.
Question about the patrol. grant. And I do see that, so the COSAP grant. How much?
Hold on one second, sure. This is just for the sheriff's budget.
Yes.
So do we have any more questions on the Meg unit?
No.
No? All right, great. Thank you.
No, for the COSAP grant.
Yeah.
How confident are you that this, because my one concern with this is that this will turn into from a grant to something that'll have to count against the levy in the year's future.
Well, we got some bad news that happened today. We did not get the $430,000 COSUP grant, which is different. There's COSUP and COSAP. COSAP is state, COSUP is federal. So we're going to remove that from the budget. When you see that, that'll be gone. I was going to lead into that once we were done with but I'm also going to talk about ways that we can make up some of that and what we're planning with the MAT pod in the jail, medically aided treatment pod. So, I can. You want any more budget questions?
I do have a couple. And you mentioned it already, but we budget fuel at $3.50 a gallon. Yeah. I don't know if that's realistic. I mean, if we're trying to come up with a realistic number, I don't know if I'd be happy if it was, but.
Well, we pay 19 cents less than what you pay at the pump because we don't pay the federal tax. So fuel would be $3.69. If fuel is $3.69, we're right on budget at $3.50. So when we took a look back and we looked at our average fuel, we felt very comfortable with $3.50, even though we had raised it the previous year. That price hike didn't come to fruition. I know it's a gamble, so to speak, but.
Well, the difference between now and then, though, right, is they're restricting supply of gasoline, specifically Russia and Saudi Arabia, which controls a lot of OPEC. So, and I think at the very least, people should know this going in, that
Yeah.
this budget item is going to be problematic.
We have, so when you look at what we typically give back at the end of the year, we may have to move some money from somewhere else. We may have to delay something into the next year to move some money to make up for the fuel costs if we're there. That we have not, to my knowledge, I don't think we've ever been over in fuel, to my knowledge, since I've been in this position. Now, we do have plans in place if, let's say it went to $10. We have plans in place to put 2 deputies per car. We would get rid of a backup coming to that call for service. Now 2 deputies respond. It's not as good as 1 because you're not every call needs an additional officer. So there's some detriment, but it is a way to cut fuel costs.
Right. Okay. You mentioned this earlier about how you eliminated some positions, a handful since 2016. I think most of that was through attrition, correct?
Yes, well, through attrition, but then rather than hire somebody, we took duties of that person and moved them to someone else, and we're able, and it's not just one person getting, let's say somebody had 10 really specific duties that they had to do, we would put 3 here, 2 here. There's a lot of planning that went into trying to make that work.
Right.
We're not as efficient, but it does work.
I get that. So I know that we've talked about these 2 new positions. This next year, are you planning on seeing any reduction in the other positions? No. And more question. I apologize, I lost my place. Could you just remind me again, here it is. What is all included in the other contract services?
Other contractual. So our contract with Motorola, which is very significant for radio maintenance, for the infrastructure maintenance, our medical contract for our inmates, that's about 1.2 million a year roughly. 1.245. So, and then our contract for the food service in the jail, many of the pieces of equipment that we have contracts for maintenance with them. And it is extensive. Give me something else, Laura. Motorola contract is,
There's two different Motorola, one's about 500,000, one's like 350,000.
But wasn't that additional part covered through the Spirit Fund?
No, that's totally separate.
So
That's
this is the
just
ongoing.
separate,
this is the-
yeah.
the ongoing maintenance. Got it. For every piece of equipment that you buy, you can figure about a 20% yearly maintenance of that piece of equipment.
All the 911 stuff too, John.
Yep.
Sheriff.
No, not every, when we bought the, well, actually, that did come with a warranty. When we bought the, Narcan, not Narcan, the Trunark. But that came, we purchased as part of that a 5-year warranty.
All right, great. Thank you. Supervisor Isaac.
Yes, while we're still on this budget, I see that our total operating revenue is down $500,000 in this budget. I see that our regular pay increases by $500,000. I see that our health insurance is increasing by $140,000. Medical and dental, 55,000 contract services is increasing by 300,000.
500, that would,
Vivitrol, that's Vivitrol. The medical dental is Vivitrol. There's a revenue side to that one, the 55, the one you just.
Yeah, but you just told us that, you're not getting the CASA.
We are getting, well, we're getting some grants though. We are getting $250,000 in the extension of the MAT grant, which is, we see it under the Wisconsin Department of Justice, right before, right below the CASA grant on that page.
Could you tell me the object
You know, but
number?
that's in addition, that doesn't take the place that you're not gonna get that. All or part of the 553,000. I'm looking at page 5, 50. Item number 55,000. 55000. And then it's.
Yeah, that's-
Medical dental is increasing by 300,000.
That medical dental, again, there's a $250,000 grant that we are receiving. We have received verbal confirmation that will cover Vivitrol and recovery coaches in the jail. Different than CASA, separate from the CASA grant.
Yeah, but if you've got revenue coming in at someplace in the revenue section, this is an expense. This is an expense that's increased by 300,000 from 2023.
That is a purchase of Vivitrol. Vivitrol is the shot that you give addicts that blocks opioids. And we have been giving a lot of those shots out, and I'm going to talk about a plan to give
This
even
is
more.
when they exit from,
Yeah, we give them,
yes, from jail.
right, but we give them while they're here too, to build up more resistance. So if they're here 8 months, they may get 8 shots.
Yeah. You're accounting for the income in the revenue section of the budget.
Oh,
This is a 300,000 increase from last year. Okay,
in the expense,
But-
you're talking, in the expense.
you know, it accumulates to the 900,000 that you're gonna ask extra for the levy.
But that doesn't impact the levy, because those are grant dollars. There's money coming in under the grant, there's money going out under the expense.
Well, it's coming in and going out and paying for this particular expense, but it's still part of the whole budget. And when at the end of the day, you're gonna have to balance the budget in some fashion, and the way you balance it is you take the extra from the levy.
Not in this particular budget, cost center, no, but in others, yes.
Well, in the budget as a whole, when you get to page, 8, and you got the bottom line, and you've got an increase of, $900,000, that's the final stroke. Now, I did also look and see that you've got an extra 150,000 going out to capital outlay, page 8, 58004. And I'm guessing that was probably the scanner that you've asked for, the one that you had given us some demonstration years ago, how you can prevent incoming prisoners from concealing drugs and other things. So, well, what I'm driving at in identifying these different issues is that you're going to need $900,000, which you're asking from the levy, and that's going to be part of everything else that all the other departments in the county are asking for, in particular personnel expenses, which are going to increase for every department because of competition for recruiting and for retention of employees. My question is, where do you anticipate the county is going to get this money from? I mean, I don't think that the administration is inclined to honor larger expenses than or increase the levy upon the taxpayers significantly. Where would a sales tax come in to fix the income needs, revenue needs for the sheriff's department? It'd be a very simple fix, but then it's a complex issue that's countywide. What other aspects of the sheriff's budget would take a hit to lessen the impact of the $1 million that is asked for? Several years ago, there was a study done in which the positions were and the programs were examined, and priorities given to some of the programs, and it's difficult for me to see how you're going to give up money from the corrections department division to accommodate the detective department. And so on down the line for each of the departments. So I don't know, I'm in a quandary of, how we're coming up with this money.
I can't answer that question specifically. There's net new construction. There's, I mean, I don't know exactly where that money is going to come from. I do know that we have reduced positions here. We have given back on a regular basis. And the increases that we have had in the past have only been to keep up with the market for wages. Maybe other departments may have to give up positions. I don't know. I don't have all the answers because I'm not the county exec.
Well, can we look at the health insurance? It's gonna cost $140,000 more. You're asking for $140,000 more than you did last year. And, I'm assuming there was an increase in the cost of, the health insurance across the board. But that's an area that the, county, can consider, by, taking a look at their, Cadillac program and, offer deductibles, offer, tax sheltered, alternatives, with high deductibles. I think you can bring to the administration's attention that, that's an area where we can maybe put another $140,000 towards that 900.
Those are all determined by human resources as to what our benefits are, not determined by us. Those numbers are given to us.
You have a unionized force, so you're working by higher standards or more tighter standards than the rest of the county deals with, because these are bargained issues which are not necessarily bargained for everybody else.
The insurance is no different between a deputy in the union or anyone else. The insurance is all the same. So if what you're asking or what you're suggesting, it would change for the 1,000 employees, not just the union.
Absolutely. And
Right.
that's $140,000.
Well, that would only be for our employees. I mean, that would be increased exponentially when you include the other 800.
Well, you know someone in insurance. If you only knew someone in insurance. Did you have any other questions?
Not at this time. I think I've said enough.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I do have a question, as we were talking about, pay. What's going on with workers' comp? We saw an increase, significant increase, if I'm looking correctly here. We're projecting 86,000 and next year we're requesting 210,000.
Again, that's given to us by HR. We've not had a significant, to my knowledge, a significant increase in workers' comp claims. Just the cost of the insurance went up. I can only imagine. I mean, that's an HR question.
Yeah, it is, but it's one that bears on your budget.
It does, it definitely. So does property liability insurance. There are things that we get from other departments that we have no control over what that number is, and that would be one of them.
I'll be watching for that line for the other budgets.
Be a great question for Mark Hobbeck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a significant
Increase, it is.
And in terms of was it the state DOJ who just increased the was it DOC? Yeah, it was the DOC.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, who increased the hourly. Do we feel like, and I know that this is all negotiated, but do we feel like we're gonna be in a worse position?
Yes. They're negotiating contracts right now, so I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know what that number is.
When will that be finalized? We have an idea. I guess, before budget, after budget?
I wish I could tell. I don't know. I've seen union contracts go for 3.5 years, where nothing's been settled. I've seen some that have taken 3 months. I know that I don't get involved in the bargaining because it's part of it. But, I know that, they have exchanged their offers. I don't know where we're at.
Do you know if that offer is close to where we're budgeting right now?
No, I don't know exactly, but we're going to see an increase. There's no doubt when Department of Corrections is offering $33 an hour to start. And depending upon where you work, you could start at $41 an hour. And we're starting at $27 an hour.
A lot of upward pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
And I'm telling you, every sheriff has had this same discussion, as well as PDs. I mean, some PDs don't make $33 to $41 an hour to start. So it's going to create some havoc.
Should we be disclosing this fact, though, as we go through the budget process? Because it seems to me that we're planning a certain number, and we may be way off on that number. And to Supervisor's Eisen's point, we don't want to get down too far, and all of a sudden, we're in a hole of, another $200,000.
Yeah.
Which could be real. I mean, based on, I think was it 14 million was the budget for labor for next year, around there?
Yes.
For wages, rather? I think it was 14, it's not 13. Okay, so 14, yeah. So, I mean, honestly, 10%, I mean, you're talking, 140,000 right there. So I don't know an answer, just that I think it might be something good for people to understand.
Yeah.
And supervisors to understand, as we go along in this process, because boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, I could only imagine the board approving this number. Only 2 months after that, we're back asking for more.
Yep.
I
that
think
very
it's good
well
for everyone to know that.
That very well could happen.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I wouldn't want you in that position with everyone like, whoa, what's going on? So it might be something that, I don't know how, but it might be something good for us to communicate through the budgeting process. That there's a couple line items there that are somewhat unknown.
Yes, they are unknown, but again, it's part of the negotiating tactics, if you will. What is disclosed and what isn't is really up to HR, who is our bargaining unit. So
I totally get it. I want to make sure that going forward, we're not putting, this department in some adversarial kind of situation when people look at a budget and say, oh, we approved this budget, what's going on? I think if people knew that going into it, it might be a little easier as we actually try to manage the department next year and all of these costs. We'll go Flom and then Supervisor. So Supervisor Flom.
So Sheriff, in your defense, though, we will be getting revised sheriff revenue figures, and we've already gotten them.
Yep.
Approximate estimates on what those may be. But I guess to piggyback off of Chairman Stafford, this budget as it's currently presented does not reflect any changes from negotiations because of, what the legislature did, I guess, the routine time to negotiate. So, I know that you can't comment on ongoing negotiations and that you're not directly involved in them, but you do think the potential for having this supplemental budget request is going to be rather high.
yeah, unless we're able to settle that, unless the county's able to settle that contract prior to the budget hearings. Yeah. And then you would have a true number of what 2024 would bring.
And it's no easy position because given the fact that state DOC has moved to a point where it may be more difficult for business to keep up with that puts us between a rock and a hard place.
It does, but we offer some things that the state can't offer. Upward mobility, the ability to move to a patrol position, and then from there to detectives. there's things that the state can't offer. And that's very appealing to young people. And during my sheriff's report, I'll talk about where we're at with staff.
And just one more thing, I do want to bring up that point because this department does do a very good job in terms of attracting talent. And so I see something for recruitment incentives there. How well has that been working for us?
I'll cover it very soon.
Absolutely.
But we're like 2 ahead at the end of the year.
That's great.
We have 2 extra people when we go through our internship program. But what happens during the next 3 months? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I feel good about being fully staffed in a very short time.
And I guess my long-term fear is that we lose competitiveness because of how high the state has set the bar. That's not a commentary on whether or not the state should have made that decision. That was well warranted, but that does put pressure on us.
It does very much.
Supervisor Eisen.
Yes. I'd like to comment that I'm disappointed because we have not received a sheriff's program budgets printout that we have had in past years.
Well, meaning program budgeting, meaning like the program budgeting that we've done. Well, again, this came from finance. This was not something we created. So because we're behind, we created just what our best guess on what you needed.
Well,
This came from finance, not from us. We don't have any format to
I don't
use.
see anybody from finance here.
I don't either.
They're out there someplace. They will be when we review the Zoom.
This is 2023, I assume?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, if I may just add, the unfortunate thing is it sounds like from the county executive that the priority-based budgeting is not going to happen this year.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't.
now we're just in this really weird space.
And again, what you got last year for packets, for us to go over, did not come from us. It came from finance. So we put together what our best guess
Might be a bump in budget season.
might be.
Well, we should be loaded and massage some of these programs because we'll be in a position to make recommendations and have them approved. Whereas in the past, it's come down from above.
As an example, we gave goals and accomplishments. We don't do that anymore. And actually, I was kind of disappointed because it's a good gauge for us and for you to look at, okay, this is what you said you wanted to do. What'd you get done? And why didn't you? Or how'd it go? And what are you going to do in the next budget? And those are no longer.
We don't get any organization charts. anymore
Exactly.
Either.
Right. So again, we're asked to give our budget in September. We did that. I could come back in October if I've got more information, or if there's a packet that is now available, it will be made available. And I'll be here to explain anything.
You can tell the Oshkosh Herald transparency is a thing of the past.
Okay.
All right, any Supervisor Jeffrey?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of these questions that have been asked were questions I were going to ask, specifically in regards to property liability insurance. That these are all things that we're going to have to ask Mark Havik on.
Right.
And because obviously I'm seeing a constant increase, literally over the last 5 years. It just keeps going up and up. So, anyways, in regards to 53522. Small equipment. From it's a pretty significant increase from 3 years ago. We went from 112,000 to, 241. Could you maybe just kind of help me out here and what were some of the larger parts that comprised of that line item for small equipment?
Why it went down? Because it went down 16%.
Yeah, from the year prior.
Yeah, right, because we replaced body cams
Mhm.
last year, and now that's over. And that was, even though it's such a large purchase, overall, because the unit doesn't reach a certain threshold, it's a finance rule that had to be in small equipment. And
Okay,
that's why you see that decrease, because
Okay.
we're finished.
because that's the body cams part.
Yes, yep.
Okay,
From
thank you.
last year. Yep.
Thank you.
Or I should say.
And the computer licensing, it seems to be that request went up significantly. Tell me a little bit about the computer licensing. Is it, do you have some sort of exclusivity with that, with, a certain software provider? Tell me a little bit about that.
That is, that number's given to us by our IT department, so they give us what that cost will be. And it's probably due to Microsoft 360 being, launched but we get that from them. We have no control over the number. It's just, we have to build it into our budget.
Okay, all right, so that's something I could ask Patty on.
Yeah.
There on. Okay, great. And the next question is just overall in just looking at the future. Just from your law enforcement officers for the county. Are they how many are reaching retirement age?
We're gonna change over a number of veterans here. We will change over 4 in December, but we're gonna see a cycle of people leaving. And that's why we've done some succession planning with not just the administration, but with our younger deputies as well in the first line supervisor positions, detective positions, giving them at least some exposure. So a number of them. We have a chart, or we have a list of when people started, when they're eligible to retire, and then we ask them, do you know when you're going to retire? Some respond, some just don't know. Who knows what tomorrow is going to bring in the economy? So, yeah, a significant change coming up.
Okay.
But what that does is it actually, in some ways, works to the benefit of the budget, because you're now hiring new employees at a lower rate, and you save some for a while.
Okay. Well, that was
Also put more money into retirement, because the people in the past didn't have to, but you people. did.
Yes, right. You're correct. Yeah, every new person has to pay their share. That's correct.
okay. Thank you. That
You're
that
welcome.
covers my questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Again, I'm sorry, again, it was a tough year because, not a lot of current guidance.
Right, so I do think that, based on that, we'll probably want to come back in October. I do appreciate though, having what you have currently, because it gives us an opportunity to really dig through it, and think about it. Especially since we have so many departments come through at one time. It definitely helps, so thank you. But yeah, let's plan to circle back on that. All right, we're gonna close item number 8 on the agenda. Open up item number 9, Sheriff's Report.
Okay, so I'll start with staffing, 9 deputy vacancies, it includes 3 going to patrol, those are corrections, the 9 positions. 2 starting in September 18th. We have 5 in background with projected start dates in October. We have 0 patrol vacancies, but we will get 3 retirements, or we already have 3 notices of retirement and another one forthcoming. We will fill those internally from corrections candidates, and although it hurts us in corrections, it gives them movement, and our outside interest in patrol has not been, the quality of candidate has not been there. we know what we're getting from a deputy coming from corrections. We've seen them work. So we know, and those will come from internally from corrections candidates. We have 2 vacancies in dispatch. We have 1 starting in October, and we're holding interviews on October 5th. So we anticipate that leaves only 1 opening. We anticipate to fill that during those interviews. We have 8 current interns. And again, when you do the math, we're actually over 2 with the people leaving. And so in December, when they graduate, we will have all the positions filled. Now, how long that lasts, I think I've only been full as the sheriff here for about 4 minutes. And that was in 2013. I mean, it is an ever-changing thing. We have 200 employees. There's a lot of movement. And there's a lot of movement now because employees now go for the next shiny object, and we're shiny for a while and then we're not. But we do feel good about where we're at, especially with that internship program. That's why you see the incentives there with the $2,000 signing bonus when they graduate and they sign with us for a 3-year commitment. Now I want to talk a little bit about a program. So we have just started to really work through the holes that exist right now in recovery. And where they are, we can do a good job in the jail as far as Vivitrol recovery coaches. We can make sure the recovery coaches put them up at the door when they're released, but we lose them from there. They stay in contact. The recovery coach can stay in contact, but we don't have a good system in place yet to track the contact and to know where they're at. So we want to start we chose this acronym, STAR program, Sobriety and Treatment Assisted Recovery. So what's different with our program is that you don't see in other programs is that the only way to guarantee that an addict is alive tomorrow is for them to start and break their addiction today. And that's Vivitrol. Now, that doesn't mean they won't overdose on something else, but most often when you look at those stats, fentanyl, heroin is what's killing our addicts. Could there be something you guys kind of talked about? Could there be something else that comes out? We have one drug out that is not impacted by Narcan, but it is still opioids. So what we will do is put phases in place. Phase 1 we're already doing, securing funding from a grant. We got $150,000. That's for Vivitrol. And some of the recovery coaches from Solutions Recovery. We're going to have the DHS counselor that's here that works in our building. We have that position now. They screen participants for eligibility, and we purchase Vivitrol through that program. So we're already doing that particular one right now. We're doing some of phase 2, hiring a Vivitrol coordinator to be on site from Solutions Recovery to coordinate the program as well as recovery coaches to have recovery coaches working in the jail. We're going to do a handout through grant monies. And securing additional funding for year 2 and 3 that we don't have to worry about continually getting grant money as it's a multi-year grant. And then extending wraparound services to include the follow-up care and post-release data collection. So we're actually tracking. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've accomplished so far. From September 6th of 2022 to September 6th of 2023. I won't get into the number of contacts because they're very significant and they can just be a phone call. They can be all kinds of different things, but I'm going to talk about the participants. We have served 399 inmates, addicted inmates. Currently incarcerated, there are currently 83 of those inmates still incarcerated. So that means 316 have been released. 63 of those 316 have continued outside services. So 63 have continued services, with 29 of them, 29 of the 63 are sober and in recovery yet. So that's actually a 46% positive or so far recovered addict. That's pretty significant. Now we want to continue to follow them and talk to the district attorney. We kind of discussed how we get connected to this. So there's deferred prosecution, so there's suspended sentences. So there's a lot of reasons to, if I'm an addict, to get involved and be successful in this program. There's 2 other phases that we're working on, with phase 3 actually being a housing unit that is all addicts that are participating. We believe will be somewhere around 40 male, and we'll have a separate pod with 10 female. That's what we're anticipating. So 50 inmates in this program. And we just have to secure the funding that will cover the cost of these 2 pods that have program in them.
Can I get a clarification? So
Yeah.
a housing unit, is that on this property?
Right here.
Okay.
It's right there. So there's no brick and mortar. We don't have to build anything.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna use an existing block.
Got it. Okay.
And we will put 40, right around 40. That's what Recovery Solutions is telling us is an appropriate number for them to deal with. That gives them the ability for their recovery coaches to meet with them, but then also the peer-to-peer counseling that occurs amongst the inmates.
These are still inmates.
Still inmates until they get out of here, and then that's the different phases where they get tracked and the recovery coaches stay with them. And we continue that contact, and we continue to determine where they're at. Now, addicts, the addicts that I know, they slip and fall. So there may be times where they're not sober. They start over at day 1. But we've seen that in the Connect program. We've seen that in every other program, but they're alive. They're on Vivitrol and they're alive. And I think that's the main thing that our program is focusing on.
Quick question, so basically there are gonna be 40 inmates in a segregated block to work with the recovery coaches. Have there been any security concerns with that, or has that all been pretty clear then?
We still have to classify them. We still have to make sure that those 40 can be together. So we'll work through all of those issues with our classification person. I don't see any major concerns there. Now, some of this is very much in its infancy. We kind of brainstormed this starting last week, and started to. The one thing I don't personally believe in is continuing the addiction with Suboxone and Methadone. I don't believe in that. I think if we give them typically takes 10 days to get the opioid out of the system so they can receive their first Vivitrol shot. Average length of stay is 20 days. Now they got 20 days of sobriety and they got a Vivitrol shot when they walked out the door. That's 30 days additional. That's 50 days of sobriety. Why would we want them to go on Suboxone or Methadone and start the addiction over again? Just my opinion. There are medical doctors that disagree, but we've seen success on what we've done here. So Dave is our jail administrator, and I've been driving him nuts with this thing. Again, we're in the infancy stages. Dave, you got things you want to add?
I guess I would just add that I think, as the sheriff had mentioned, our numbers, I think the areas of, we're taking a really close look at where we're falling down. First of all, the 46% success rate is extremely high for most recovery programs that are out there. So granted, it's only been a year's worth of data that we have to go off of, but that is fantastic. the area I think that we're falling down on, as we look at, there's been 253 individuals that have been released that weren't involved in the program. And I think that's where we're focusing on now, is with the wraparound services, how do we capture those 253 people that didn't continue with the meeting with the recovery coaches and continue with the Vivitrol after being released or after losing contact after release. So by doing the wraparound, maybe we can capture those 253 at our 46% success rate. That's another 125 people roughly that we could hopefully save with the program. I think there's a cost savings that we're looking at long term. When they come into the facility, this is actually a residential treatment facility, basically housed right within the jail here. So they can, rather than having dead time when they're in jail itself with nothing really constructive going on, they're going to be getting actual classes from Solutions Recovery, the same classes that they would be getting at Solutions or any other residential treatment program. They'll be getting that here today, or well, if this goes, they would be starting day one, being exposed to that thought process, being that potentially upon release, rather than going to a residential treatment program, they might be ready to then to go to some type of transitional housing, saving the county from having to house them outside. So I think that's the major point, Sheriff.
Great, one second, Supervisor Isaac.
Yeah. What is the overview of expense for administering, for putting a program like this in place? What would you guesstimate?
Well, we're in the infancy stages, because there are monies that are available through the state. The state took 30% of the opioid settlement funds. They're looking for places to spend it. This would be a great place to spend. This is exactly what the opioid settlement fund was designed for. And so we're hopeful. I've talked to the county executive. He is on board. He suggested using the state's opioid money and reaching out to them. We have a meeting. It's not scheduled yet, but with social services, public health, county exec, us, and Solutions Recovery. Yeah, those entities where we're going to get together and say, oh, and the DA, where we're going to get together and say, okay, how do we make this work? The other thing that you have to consider is when we pull people out of, so we have a vacant pot, right, in our jail. We pull these 40 people up. We put them in the vacant pot. We have to have people run that pot that we don't have working for us right now. So we would need to hire positions. But before we get worked up over that, that leaves us 40 positions, 40 inmates that we can replace with contract inmates, ES sanctioned inmates in the facility to help make up that cost. That's part of it. Plus with any opioid settlement money that either the county currently has or that the state has, as well as the MAC grants that are out there, are significant. And although we don't fit them, the traditional MAC grant where you use Suboxone and methadone, this still is a grant. This still is a program that would fit many of those grants. We're going to be busy writing those, as well as talking to the state for their money.
Supervisor Flow.
I guess one of the questions that I had was about funding. And the other one is, for a 46% success rate, a lot of people talk about, well, what programs are actually helping stem the opioid crisis. I think this is one of them.
I agree.
That has, real tangible results with people. I mean, the fact that, and I guess the other point is realizing that people do have to enter this program voluntarily. They do have to agree to enter into it, but it gives them an opportunity, sit down in a peer-to-peer recovery situation, work on those classes before release. I think is really a great leg up for us, because a lot of times we see people repeat offend this stuff. So.
Right, and that's another benefit is we're not having that cyclic person come back to jail. That reduces our jail counts, which makes other revenues available to us. And I think that again, going back to the statement, the only way we can make sure they're alive tomorrow is to end the addiction today. That's what Vivitrol does for opioids, which is our main cause of overdose deaths. And then we get them at their lowest point, typically in their life, right here. So, no pun intended, they're a captive audience. And this is an opportunity. We're going to make the pod very, there'll be some additional amenities like getting our vendor to give us more visitation time on tablets. That's a no-brainer. Offering some additional canteen, maybe some other types of things that make it a much better living environment, which is much more relaxed and conducive to therapy.
Is this kind of on the, for lack of a better, cutting edge of recovery services in jail? Have other counties done similar programs?
I know of no other county that's doing this.
1 second, I have a question and then we'll get to you. So help me with this. So we have the CASA and the CASEP, right?
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So in phase 1, it says secure funding to begin the program, a grant of 150,000. We got that.
That's the CASAP grant. That is the
CASAP.
state grant.
Correct.
And we've spent that.
That's been spent. That's the one that we talked about several months ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And then we applied for 1.3 million CASA.
Yes.
That's federal and it does not appear that we're gonna get that.
That's the one.
Correct.
It's not a hard no, but we're gonna pull it out of the budget because I don't think we can count on it.
What does that do to this program, not getting that money?
It makes us look for other places, like the opioid settlement funds that the state received, or other grants that would be available for taking in, when we move people into a pod, replacing them with contract inmates, sanctioned contract inmates. How much money can we, affirmatively say we're going to receive? Being transparent, but yet very, we know we're going to receive this money. It's not a wish. We're pretty solid that probation and parole has agreed to give us 20 sanctioned inmates that they will pay us for. So it being creative, but being realistic. And maybe we can only go so far. And when we see the successes, we can pique the interest of people that authorize grant dollars. So again, this is a little bit different because it doesn't meet the typical MAT rehabilitation recovery program because we don't include Suboxone and the other pieces of that. So
The other part to it though, that the sheriff doesn't meet the typical program where we excel at is the recovery coach perspective. To my knowledge, there is no other program that is actually incorporating recovery coaches as a part of their MAT programs within their facility and making it a wraparound process.
Supervisor Isaac.
Thank you. Now, are these recovery coaches county employees or they're employees of Solutions Recovery?
Employees of Solutions Recovery.
So the program that is, the pilot program that is proposed, concept, is in nonprofit and government partnership.
Absolutely.
yes,
This is prime benefit in the field of other practices. We're unique in having this nonprofit come in to our pod to work with our inmates.
Okay, Supervisor Jeffrey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in regards to solutions, is that, can other, sober resources get involved in this, or is it, exclusively solutions?
I mean, as far as contracting, certainly we can open it up to other entities to contract with. We've had a great partnership with Solutions Recovery.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, they don't charge us for everything now. They have been very kind, and they know that we're trying to get something off the ground. You know, having been addicts and know what it's like, and what someone did for them is what they're trying to do for people that are in our facility. So yes, it could, but again, we would want to consider the relationship we have now and how fiscally responsible they have been towards us.
Sure.
They have not charged us for a lot of their services.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I was just wondering if this was like some sort of thing in ink where
No.
it had to go through.
No,
one.
we're drawing a lot of just, their experience
Mhm.
right now because it's in its infancy,
Sure,
and they are excited. They like it a
Yeah.
lot.
excellent.
Thank you, Supervisor Cool.
So Solutions is on board. They feel like they have the bandwidth to achieve this. They feel like they have enough people on their teams that communicate with, provide consistent staff.
Yes, I think they may have to hire more staff, but they believe they can meet what we're asking for.
Okay. And then for the MAP grants and the other opioid funds from the state, does that come from the governor's office, Department of Corrections, DOJ, or a smattering of all three, or?
DOJ.
Okay, cool. And do you guys feel like you're pretty confident that you can secure those?
We are gonna work really hard to sell the program because it works, and we've already proven it works. It's not a pipe dream, it does work. So I think with that, how do you refuse, right? We know that we, again, I mean, I go back to that, in order to keep, we have to keep somebody alive in order to help them. And that's why Vivitrol is so important, to be a piece of this. And,
And lastly, for those unfamiliar in the room, could you go over ES sanction inmates?
Sure.
What they are?
yeah, they are probation and parole inmates that are sitting a certain number of days for some offense, some rule violation. Currently, we only take our own that are within our own county. It was about 21 today.
Yes.
That we have ES sanctions. We're being reimbursed at the 40 or 51.40 a day. But there are other counties that can't take them in, such as Brown. And we've taken them in the past, and they are, probation and parole is excited if we would find room, because they're not going to so many different jails and transports.
Reimbursed by DOC.
Yes, that's correct.
I have two questions.
All right.
Pretty easy ones. First is, can you give me an update on the boathouse?
Hey, the boathouse is, I'm glad you asked that, because Mike Elder sent an email last week. The boathouse has been, Cardinal is the subcontractor that is building the structure. Everything else is done. Matter of fact, the electric is in for the lift, everything is there. They're building it off-site, so when they bring it in, it's, it's like a modular home. So it'll go up in one day. We should see that very, very soon.
Great. So we get this year?
Yes.
Perfect. And then update on the 980 housing, do you know where we are?
Yeah, they are, they're working at it. If you drive up here, you'll see that they have a parking lot where people are gonna park. And they have now started to work on the excavation for the housing unit itself. So, yeah, we're making, progress.
Have they communicated estimated time of completion?
And not to me, Mike, and I'm sure to Mike Elder they have, but not to me. I just
Okay.
drive by there about, 3 times, 4 times a day.
How many units again?
I think we're 3 or 4 they're starting with, if I'm not mistaken. That's again a Mike and John question.
Supervisor Isaac?
How are we doing on the evidence garage and more?
Well, we just now finalized how we're gonna get into one of the hangups was we have crashes that involve semis, that involve large straight trucks. So we need to be able to secure them in an outside area. How do we do that, given our configuration? They are going to put in a gravel driveway from solid waste into the area, which will be, a tow truck typically will bring them in and be able to park them from that driveway. So it'll come from Y by solid waste and in there. So now that part is done, and that was a huge hang up, getting that all done. So that's as far as I know. That's a Mike question beyond that.
The other is, how are we doing with the jail cell updates? Putting in those plastic,
That's been done.
Yeah, that's been done a while. That was a project that we basically controlled and yeah.
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yeah, so, this is a question in regards to like, so I spoke with a landlord who lives in Neenah. And, it turns out that, he spoke with someone who was, spoke with another developer that's like down the road from him. He found out that there was, somebody who has been, stealing a lot of equipment and he did like a search on CCAP, found out that there was a warrant out for his arrest. And actually there has been a warrant out for his arrest for some time. And he did notify law enforcement. It looks like he was picked up, either the day of or the following day after they've been notified. But I guess my question is that, it sounded to me that, this was, this guy had like a shall arrest warrant, it wasn't like a bench warrant or anything like that.
Right.
So, is there a hot sheet that the county has that they provide to like local municipalities of people that have warrants out for their arrest?
Municipalities are aware of the warrants that exist there. I can talk from experience, actually. So we used to use just large binders. Obviously, I wouldn't say that. I mean, the binder for one of our areas was about this thick with warrants in. So basically, a patrol deputy will look at the most current warrants and begin to work the most current, because that has the most current address, et cetera. Then we look and see how often they've been worked, and then we send them back and someone looks to make sure that the address is correct, is most current, and then it will go back out probably with a new address, because that's why we have found others. People are just good at hiding, and unless we know they're home, we're not going to break a door down to go in and get them. And even if they're home, depending upon what the warrant is, do we want to start some kind of use of force incident over, even if it's a theft of, construction equipment of $1,000? I mean, do we really want to get involved in an officer-involved shooting over that?
I guess in this particular incident, this is a guy that had like storage bins just built up.
And it's starting to sound a little familiar, maybe.
Yeah.
These guys would know, there was someone arrested on a warrant and we were able to. Storage units, that's where they keep, not only do they steal from them, but they keep their stuff there as well.
Yeah,
So,
it was just hoarding, just stolen equipment. It was just,
and it's an ongoing issue.
okay.
So if you have a storage unit, make sure you got one that has cameras, that has a certain way that the lock is covered. There's a paddle that goes over the lock. It's much harder for them to get into it. And that they have a good set of cameras that record.
Okay. So it is something that, like the city of Neenah, city of Menasha, they'll have like, that priority list for them.
Yes. I don't know how we share it right now. If I can find out, I'll tell you exactly how we.
Yeah, maybe if you could just follow up
Yeah.
whenever you find out and just kind
I'll
of
send you an
let me know
email.
what
I'll
the
send all of
process
you an email on how we do.
That'd be great. Okay, great. Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Oh, yes, while we're on the topic of infrastructure improvements, the camera project,
Which one?
the one that was in the CIP
The jail.
earlier this year.
Yes, we just got word from our family that it's on the docket for this fall.
Great.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we are closing item number 9 on the agenda, opening item 10, talking about the next meeting. Currently, we have that meeting scheduled for Monday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. That is the first Monday of the month. That will be budget reviews. So we're gonna pretty much keep it to budgets. So get your budget review hats on because we get to do that again. If there aren't any questions or concerns, we'll set that as the date, Monday the 2nd, 6 p.m. Okay, yep, all righty. That closes item 10, item 11. Adjourn. Second discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes. Thank you very much, everyone.